All right, Bree, I love chatting with a fellow peer in the industry. It's my favorite conversation to have on Health Coach Radio. Sometimes you talk to like some kind of big deal, like influencer type, celebs, wellness celebs. But my favorite episodes are the ones where I talk to folks in the trenches working with clients. And you are that. Well, you also have a little bit of that adjacency to Dr. Mindy Pelz, who is amazing. And I'm probably going to talk about her a little bit here today, too. But start us off, just take me through what shaped or inspired your journey into health coaching?
Yeah, well, similar to many people, I sort of have that hero's journey and been in the trenches myself, which a lot of people have been. I always loved health and fitness, and I'm 50, so I grew up in the low fat era and the cardio bunnies and all of that, which I know a lot of people can relate to. And I was just always interested in it. And then when I was in my late 30s, I started to wake up at night and I started to have like my hands were locked in place, and I started to get a lot of a lot of swelling, a lot of achiness. I wasn't able to like cut carrots or open pickle jars anymore. And I was like, okay, something's going on here. And fast forward the story a little bit, I walked out of a doctor's appointment with a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. And for those people who don't know what that is, it's an autoimmune, disease that affects your joints. So left untreated, it can have severe implications on your daily living. I had just started to have some of those issues come up, but left untreated, people can end up in wheelchairs, and it could even, end up, causing death because of all the inflammation that happens around the organs. So that was a big point for me to kind of just reevaluate life and, take a pause and start to implement new things. I'm married to a really amazing man who's very into looking into the deeper aspects and thinking outside of the box. So we did start down the traditional medical route, but, there's a little whisper in me too saying there's another way to do this. And that's what really started this journey into like health coaching and teaching women about health and all of that. So I had pretty profound, effects with that. So, I started to look at stress. I started to look at, my diet. I started to look at all those things, right? And, within a good year or so, my health had really turned around. And then I have a really strong background in education. So, I've been teaching for a long time in many different diverse areas and environments, lots of different populations. So it seemed like a natural progression for me to kind of take that information and start sharing it with others. And actually it started where people came up to me where I was working and they're like, can you help me? Can you give me some pointers? Can you give me some tips? Because they had seen the results that I had gotten by doing the work.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, we all kind of have, I shouldn't say we all have a story like this, but many people who come into the health and wellness coaching world have this origin story of waking up one day and not feeling like ourselves. And, you did explore traditional medicine, but then you thought to look outside of it, just sort of at the taking care of your body systemically more. Um, do you do this today? Is this really specifically informing how you work with folks today?
Yeah, so I had to start at like my physical body, like with the physiology and supporting that, and that's what I do with the women I work with today. Because I think it's hard. These lifestyle changes are hard, and I'm going for lifestyle change with the people I work with, not quick fixes or anything like that. So for me, when they can feel a difference in their body, something kind of clicks, and there's motivation behind that. And they start to get excited about what could happen. So I do start with the physical body, and I really believe like the food that we eat is such a profound effect on all the systems in our body, our mood, our hormones, everything. And it's such a big piece of our living. So when we work around blood sugar, we work around nutrition, all of that, like people start to feel a difference, and then they start to get more game to do other things. And then I bring in more of the mindset pieces and the things I had to also dive into as part of my healing journey. Looking at stress, that's such a big one, and it's such a massive, huge conversation. I always get nervous when I have to talk about stress with a group or with an individual because it's so relevant, for women, especially in this today's day and age.
Yes, absolutely. You made me think that, obviously what we're working on with our clients is a bigger picture lifestyle change. And we want this to be a long term change that sticks around, sustainable outcomes, total body outcomes. But there is this element of also getting them the quote unquote quick win of feeling better in their body. So having some kind of physical symptom that improves, or some kind of palpable shift in maybe energy or mood or something. And food is really powerful there. Do you kind of, I'm just curious because I think about this when I'm coaching. I work with women as well, and I think what's the like earliest win I can get them to get them motivated to stay with it? Do you kind of think through it that way too?
I do, I do. And I usually, to be like, I'll just share, I usually start with protein. I start with macronutrients and I start with protein because, in my experience, many women don't eat enough protein. And my gosh, you feel satiated. It kills the cravings for sugar, later in the afternoon. I feel like it's a really powerful piece and it's pretty easy for people to implement. There's some education that needs to happen around it, tips and tricks about how to bring it more into your diet. But I think it's a pretty big win for a lot of women and it's something that they can keep going with sustainably.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. That's what I start with too, actually, for the exact same reason, because like there's a psychosocial piece to this. I always geek out on this, so I apologize. I'm dragging you down my rabbit hole with me, but basically, the woman believes that she's some kind of defective creature because she just can't stop snacking. And she's a mindless eater and a stress eater, boredom eater, and I'm just like, girl, you're hungry. Like, just eat a proper meal, and then it's a miracle. Oh my gosh, I made it through the 3 p.m. slump without raiding the pantry or whatever. They feel like they've made some kind of like massive identity shift just by being more well fed. But these things, right? I think every coach has to have something in their back pocket, in a manner of speaking, that is the quick win, so that people can get that buy-in up front.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I do work individually and I work with groups. And it's really, I love the groups so much because like women coming together to improve their health, like there's so much power there. It's just unbelievable. And then you start to see that ripple effect of other people sharing like how they're doing with it. And yeah, it's just incredible. So that just heightens that win, right? A little bit more.
So I want to come back to something you shared a second ago. I get nervous when I have to talk about stress with people. So let's just talk around that since it's on the table now. And I'm wondering, is part of the struggle with the stress conversation is I don't want to put words in your mouth or ideas in your mouth, but is part of it because life just is objectively very stressful right now, and so the idea of helping people manage stress feels impossible, or what's your nervousness around it?
Yeah, well, I think it like that was a big, shadow for me like that. So it's a bit of a trigger for me because that was a big part of my healing and something I really had to, I'm still to this day working on that. Like I have this mantra, I'm a relaxed woman, I'm like, it's something that I'm still trying to undo and I'm still undoing patterns about it. And, I do a lot of Dutch testing too. And I think I don't know, do you know that test? Are you familiar with that test? Yeah, so it's a dried urine, hormone test that you do at home, but there's a really great section on cortisol, and cortisol is our stress hormone. And I love that piece of the Dutch because it gives a visual to women to see, what their stress, it gives an idea of their stress, but it confirms a lot of things. So when I feel like people think about stress and they think about work, like there's just these little check marks that they think about, but there's a lot of underlying issues. It's much deeper. So that's what I mean. Like I feel like it's a big conversation. It's like the elephant in the room all the time, and we always have to go there. But a lot of people are super resistant to it. They don't think they're stressed. I don't know if you hear this all the time, but like I'm not stressed. I don't feel that. But then we look at the Dutch and we see their cortisol over. Their cortisol pattern is backwards, upside down. There's a lot of great information there. And it's just kind of, I find it's like chipping away at ice to try and get to that. What is that stress for you?
No, I think you're totally right. I can't tell you how many times I've had, and I know you have too, had this conversation with a woman who, I'll just kind of casually, as I'm going through my maybe intake questionnaire, like take me through what some of the stressors are in your life, or what stress looks like for you. Oh, I've got some stress, but I handle it really well. And I'm thinking, I don't know if you are. Like, I love that for you, but physiologically, are you though? So I actually think that that ends up being one of the most chronic sources of stress for women. And I can't, this might be for men too. And we're just a couple gals who work with women. So we'll just talk around what we know. But I think one of the most prominent sources of chronic stress for women is believing she's got it handled. She's like, "Oh no, I've got it handled. I handle it well." Like, just admit that you're overwhelmed. Like, let's just start with that, and then maybe we can pluck something away out of the overwhelm bucket, and then you can actually be less stressed.
Yeah, but on that note, like when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I had two young girls. I was working full time. I was living in a city that I didn't love. There's a lot of things, and I didn't realize I was stressed. I actually thrived on that stress. I thought like I'm in the superwoman. I could handle it all. Give it to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Right? So it's hard for people to identify what stress is.
So it's almost, I think it's almost inherent to women to feel like we almost should have it all handled and it should feel easy for us. And I think women are highly resilient, especially in our reproductive era. We have a high level of resiliency. That's, I think, biologically true. Um, but the idea that we have to have it all together, I think, I don't know. I think about women too, because I work with women on weight loss, and one of the most common sources of chronic stress is the pressure they have on themselves about how their body looks. So we're ruminating on how our body looks and isn't showing up in the way we want it to, and that rumination cycle is another little stress input that sort of we just assume is just a part of being a woman. Just I'm supposed to hate my body. I'm just supposed to be stressed and overwhelmed and running around because I'm a woman. It brings to mind my favorite book. I'm sure you've heard this book, The Rushing Woman Syndrome. Have you heard this book? Yeah, like, oh, a must read.
Yeah. And and that goes back to like modern living, women, we carry so much. Like it's really unbelievable the different roles we carry throughout the day, mothers, often in this age too, we're kind of sandwiched, right? We're looking maybe after family members that are younger. We have our parents who are becoming older, then we have to show up in a career, we have friendships we want to maintain. Like there's so much happening all the time. And I feel like a lot of women think about stress reduction again is it's like self-care, but it's like getting into the sauna. It's going for a run, going to the gym, where I really believe this is more like you need to fill up your well. You got to fill up that, that depletion that we see often for women. So finding things that you love that just bring a little spark of joy into your life. It doesn't have to be big things, but little small things, in the moment is really impactful like that. But I do think a lot of women think about, like you're saying, like I'm handling it, and they're handling it with all these health things they need to do, that they hear people talking about, which does promote your health, but it's kind of, it's not really in alignment with what I'm trying to do with.
I know. And I think one of the opportunities that we have, because you mentioned you work with women individually and in groups. So I wouldn't mind getting into the sort of the weeds on the logistics of that, because I think that's interesting to our audience. But when I'm doing onboard or discovery calls, let's say, for with a prospective client, and I want to get a sense of like, what do you want to achieve here and what is in the way? And for me, it's weight loss because I work on that. What's in the way of you achieving this goal, do you think? And this has only come up in the last, I swear to like 18 months. In the last 18 months, one of the barriers that's getting in the way is confusion. Confusion. I'm confused. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I have no idea how I'm supposed to eat. I have no idea if I'm supposed to exercise fasted or not, or if I can have my coffee in the morning or not. I don't know if I'm supposed to, I don't know how I'm supposed to do any of this. They're just like more than ever. I think this is a probably really modern problem because of the information that we have access to now. Are you running into that as well?
Oh, absolutely. And I think so. I offer like some follow along, do it yourself programs, and I'll lead people through those, but it's very structured, and that's almost like a relief for people because they're able to just, it's that decision making, right? It's that on that fence kind of making, like, oh, do I have the cookie? Do I not? Those kind of things. And, with Dr. Mindy's work, so I also work as a health coach for Dr. Mindy Pelz. I think that's part of the beauty of the fasting is it removes that decision making, right? It's like I'm committed to this. This is what I'm doing. There's no kind of gray zone. Yeah, so I do offer like those like 21-day resets, and I do them myself. So I like to do them in the spring or seasonally and stuff like that. But then there's also, I offer the Dutch test just as a one-on-one consultation. Some people are great. They can come in, they just want to see their hormones. I create a 90-day plan for them and they go off and they're great. Other people need a little bit more support, which I totally get because, as you said, there's so much information out there. But when we can tailor stuff to meet somebody and they have a plan that's for them, it's so much better. So I also do the Dutch testing with a 90-day coaching program attached to it. And then I also do like a 90-day women's group program where we're kind of working on foundational stuff, and we're meeting every week. And again, I provide like a guideline or a framework of information, but it's really, you probably notice this too, like they need to be choose what they want to implement. Like it has to come from them, really, to make those changes stick.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that this is the opportunity for the health coach, which is um, if the client's coming in confused and overwhelmed because there's too much information, we kind of get to sort of bring them into our fold and say, what if just for the next 90 days, we focus on this together? And we can just tune everything else out, and we're going to focus on you. And I have this date, some of this data that I have from your Dutch test, and here's the frameworks we're going to follow for the next 90 days. How does it sound to you to just kind of come into my world and focus on this? And I think it's actually a massive relief for people because oh, thank goodness I don't have to devour media, podcasts, Instagram feeds. I can just be in Bree's world. She's got me. And I don't and AI is not going to replace that, just so we're clear.
No, I agree. And also taking a break from just that input information, especially around health. I think that's huge too, right? Because then, like, opens up so much more time, right? You can do all these other things that you really want to do, but you haven't had time to do. Like, just put the podcast. We love podcasts, but sometimes you need to take a break from them. Totally.
I was just thinking that today. I was just thinking that today as I was driving home from the gym, listening to some personal development podcast. And it was like going in one ear, not the other. And I was like, I'm not personally developing myself. I'd probably get more personal development by just driving in silence for a change. You know what I mean? Like there's just too much information. But actually, this is an exercise that I have started taking my clients through that I think any health coach could probably put into place and it wouldn't feel weird, which is okay, everybody get out your phones. I'm going to show you how to mute somebody on Instagram. I'm going to show you how to clean up your feed so you don't see as much of this, that, or the other thing that's confusing you. Because I mean, if you're going to be on your phone, because I guess we're cyborgs now and we just live in those machines, then at least clean up your exposure to things. And I always talk about it as coming back home to the body, right? Just like your body has a lot of wisdom. We've kind of been ignoring it. It's not our fault. The I think the health and wellness industry has generated this in a lot of ways. But I do also think, especially for women, because you work with women in their 40s and 50s, there is an interest in coming back home to the wisdom of their bodies.
Yeah, and I think that's that menopausal shift, right? Like really, it's pretty powerful, and I really think this is an initiation. We don't celebrate that at all in, our society or our culture. But, this is a time, and I think it's those whispers. Well, it's not the whispers. These are symptoms coming up, right? The hot flashes, the night sweats, the weight gain, like all these things are there. You have to turn and you have to start to pay attention and start to make some shifts there with that. So I think, yeah, and just going back to that, that input of that noise, and I think I love that. I'm going to actually bring that into like how to mute people and just like clean up the feed. I think it's so valuable. But it's also, there's a lot of value in just the stillness and quietness, and often, we're connecting, we're wanting to learn more and more, and I've done this myself, to distract, right? We're really lost touch with the inner voice, those whispers. I love Dr. Kelly Brogan's work, and she has that like that soft whisper of a yes and a no, and we're just not attuned to that, anymore. So trying to get women to get back into their bodies and to listen to those little whispers is really powerful too.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. I'm thinking of a client I have right now who is struggling in my program. And this particular client is very finger on the pulse of the wellness industry. And I actually think it's one of her great undoing is that she's got access to too much information. So almost the question I want to ask her, I don't know if I will, is What are you distracting yourself from here? Because really, the search for the next but most shiny piece of information is a distraction from whatever's going on in the moment. And I again, this is another great opportunity for the health coach to drop in relationship with their client and get those sort of quiet whispers.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say a big piece of my healing was starting a meditation practice. And, like, it was so uncomfortable at first. I did the transcendental meditation training, so that's 20-minute sessions a day. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I have kids. I'm lucky, like, there's no way. But I still to this day do it. It is like a massive anchor in my life. But it was so uncomfortable because when do you ever sit just 20 minutes in stillness, quiet, right? But now, like the download, like things come. I hear those whispers. Like it's amazing. But it's something I share with my clients too, right? Try and just like embrace some stillness. So
I gotta tell you, I mean, how many times, and I don't know if anybody listening is having the same experience I'm having, but how many times am I going to hear somebody say, I took on a meditation practice and it was really exactly what I needed. It changed my life. It anchored me. It rooted me. All these things. How many times am I going to hear it before I freaking do it? Like I'm personally feeling, if anybody else, I'm personally feeling very called out, not by you, Bree, but just by this conversation because, oops, I'm distracting myself too. And this is actually like a freaking epidemic, an epidemic of distraction that something like meditation is the antidote for, truly.
hmm and I do I carry this with me in my coaching is people are going to receive what they need to receive when they're ready for it. So I can share, different things, but it might not land, but eventually I think it will. Or they're going to hear it in a different voice. I don't know. My husband tells me things, and I'm like, oh yeah, great. And then somebody else tells me, I'm like, did you hear this? This was amazing. He's like, I told you that yesterday, So I think there's that piece as well. And for me, it was meditation. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but we just need to if we can try and find a way to like just quiet the mind, as you said, like that input is just coming all the time. It's quite overwhelming.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, specifically that you went down the transcendental meditation route because that's the one I'm most curious about. And I think the reason why I'm the most curious about it is because it's like a structured program that in a manner of speaking, right? Like it's got this sort of framework to it. And it's like, that's the kind of meditation I need. I need something that has like these guardrails to like give me my mantra, tell me what it is. And I just need that data point, I guess, to meditate. But it's probably a good entry point for a lot of people who are analytical, like maybe me and you are.
Yeah, like that. So it worked for me to implement that. You have to go do a course, you have to, go do some lessons and all that. I think the payment piece is also for me an investment. So I'm going to use that investment. There's that whole dynamic as well. And then, yes, like there is structure, but once you start to do it, it's very freeing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, so oh, and just one more thing I wanted to say because we just to kind of close the loop on this because we were talking about one of your quick wins is getting women to eat more protein, and I was just thinking about this that and how Dr. Mindy, for example, her fasting protocol is in the realm of taking another decision off the plate. So plucking another little thing out of the overwhelm bucket because decision making is hard when you're overwhelmed. So fasting makes a decision for you, like I'm just not eating. I'm just not eating. That's one less decision to make. But I actually think, by the way, protein and tapping into satiety signaling does this too. And this is one thing I tell my clients, which is we're going to make food so less stressful for you because you're just going to be so not hungry. You're going to just have hunger as handled, and then you can use that mind share on other things. So I think that's another unsung benefit of protein consumption, which is kind of a noisy ca- category in the zeitgeist as well. But it's like, just get hunger handled, and then you can move on with your life, do something else.
Yeah, and then my second piece is like looking at carbs, but focusing on fiber. Like we look at it through the lens of fiber, not necessarily, the whole carb conversation. But again, people start to feel their digestion is better. Again, that satiation that happens, so it's building on that with the protein, the fiber, and that feeling, they feel really good. And to me, it's more the cravings are gone. When people feel that, like they feel so great, because as you said, a lot of people think of this as willpower only, which is totally not.
Yeah. We're having a small little glitch. I'm just going to try to get it to catch up. Um, okay, so you work with women primarily in their 40s and 50s, right? What are the biggest challenges you're seeing them come in with?
Oh, weight loss is a big one. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I focus on weight loss, but I would say almost everyone I work with, that's one of their goals. Hormonal issues, the night sweats, hot flashes, those are also really, those are big issues for a lot of women because, it disrupts your sleep. Like there's like a ripple effect that happens. Sleep is another huge one too, that a lot of women struggle with. And that's a hard one because there that hormonal change with progesterone, kind of leaving us. And that really helps support sleep, especially in the later part of your cycle. But there's things you can do, to help support that. So I would say, yeah, the weight gain, which is really interesting to me too, because other cultures around the world, like you don't see that, right? Whereas here, it's like, Brie, I'm doing everything that I used to do, but this is what's happening. I've gained weight. I have a stomach, like all these kind of things happening, right? So to me, that there's this mismatch, right? And in how we kind of evolved and now how we're living these days, which includes the stress and the food and the multiple roles we're doing and, all the type of exercise we're doing, all those kind of things.
Oh, that's interesting. Now you got my wheels turning on that one because I had never contemplated until this very second. Is this just a sort of Western modern human phenomenon? Or I shouldn't say Western, but the sort of I don't know how to categorize us, but in other cultures or in other eras, has this not been a problem? Is this really unique, this weight gain struggle that women are having, or these issues they're having? Is this unique to now? And if so, why? And so, what's your hunch?
Well, I think it's a lot of what we talked about earlier. Like, there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of confusion out there. There's a lot of people want quick fixes. There's a disconnect with intuition. I feel like even just home cooked meals are not happening as much as they used to be, and that's a huge factor.
Yeah. Can I share my hunch?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
I'm gonna share my and I think about this constantly. So I think about this constantly, but I haven't really articulated it very much, I don't think. So if it comes out clunky, we're just going to go with it. But the current crop of women in their 40s and 50s, so like us, going through this menopause transition, we came into womanhood in the 90s or 2000s where, you were saying the cardio bunny era, cardio, salads, Diet Coke and rice cake, like diet, and the psychosocial programming around the thin beauty ideal. So we coming into midlife underfed, undernourished, chronically metabolically dysregulated, I think. We're coming into midlife, I think, with some mild insulin resistance just because we haven't been adequately feeding ourselves. and and somebody's telling us to eat protein and lift weights and we don't want to because we're programmed into wanting to be thin, little sinewy waifs. It's a culture clash ultimately. There's no part of supporting our body in midlife that feels congruent to how we supported our body when we were younger. It's just way too it's just a bridge too far. I think that women can't even conceive of the fact that what used to work isn't working anymore. And it's like, no, it's not. Objectively, it's not. So you have to change what you're doing. Are you willing to do that? And that's the hard part, I think. That's my hunch. What do you think?
No, I agree. Absolutely. Again, it's like you call it a bridge. I think it's a mismatch, of like how we grew up and the messaging we were getting, and then like what needs to happen now, like you're saying. But it's so great that the messaging is shifting a little bit now. I have two teenage daughters, and they want to go to the gym. They want muscles. Like it's so great to see this shift happening away from what was it, Kate Moss, or who was a really like really thin, right? When I was growing up.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. That's actually what triggered this thought the other day. I was at the gym lifting weights, and it occurred to me that like lots of girls in their 20s, young girls are in the gym lifting heavy weights. And I thought to myself, when they get into their 40s and 50s, their programming is going to be different. You know what I mean? Like not only have they set their body up for more resilient aging and maybe for better balanced hormonal, goodies or whatever, but also the way they think about their body is going to be different than us. I just think that's a massive factor right now. Gen X women going through menopause, specifically us.
I think it will be interesting to see because it's that they're embracing the strong, like being strong, right? Their body's being strong. And when we're strong, we have more muscle mass. Like it's going to also maybe ease the transition for them too, be amazing. Yeah.
I think so, right? They're aesthetical. I'd be like, how old are your daughters, out of curiosity?
Almost 17 and almost 19.
Okay. So like I don't know, I don't have any women in my life that at that age, but I think aesthetically, I shouldn't say this for sure because I really don't know, but I think aesthetically, the aesthetic goals of young women might be more in the realm of muscle, like curves, that kind of thing. I think that's going to probably pay dividends. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I feel like it will. It's the booty is back.
That's what I was dancing around. It was like butts. They like butts. I,
Thighs and butts. Like that's so great for us, right? Because a lot of women, that's where we carry our weight. So the fact that it's celebrated and, looked upon as beautiful, that's great.
exactly, right? So then I don't know about you, but when I was 19, I didn't want a butt. I wanted to get rid of my butt. I did not want any muscles. I wanted to be the tiniest little thing. So I just think we just can't overlook that as those women now transition into menopause. So we're saying lift weights, eat protein. Well, I'm scared to because what if I get bulky? It's like you're not going to. So it's the whole conversation we have to have, and it requires a ton of patience, and it requires a human to human connection, which is again, I'm just going to keep saying it, why health coaching is so critically important to have relationships with people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's that relationship, right? That's going to make things change. Having somebody there to support you, to cheer you on, to guide you, I mean, to see you, hear you, all that, it's so invaluable.
So I want to get into some of your programs. So you have like a 90-day program that kicks off with the Dutch test.
Yeah. So this is one-on-one. I do that one-on-one. So I'll do the Dutch test, then we'll review it, and then I set up a 90-day program. And depending on the person, depends on how much we integrate, at a time. But then I walk them through and I'm there for them and we connect, regularly because things come up, right? When you like, it's great to get that information and go on your way, but then you're like, oh, well, I'm feeling this, or I might have some detox symptoms coming, different things like that. So it's great to have that ongoing support. So yeah, that's one that I really enjoy.
Yeah, so when you get like the Dutch test back or the results back, when you see what's kind of maybe been flagged on this Dutch test, that tells you where to start with that individual. Is that correct? Is that kind of how you kick people out?
That and talking to them, what are their biggest symptoms that they're dealing with? What are they looking for? And then from that, looking at the Dutch, we can start to pick apart. And I will tell you, most of the time, adrenals come up, right? Because of the cortisol piece. That's, I would say, out of the hundreds of Dutch tests I've done, I've seen maybe three where the cortisol looks great and people are feeling good. That's it. And then liver support is often one that comes up as well. As we break down the hormones, the liver does a big piece of that, and we know the liver is so involved in like, so many things as well. And then there's some nutrient deficiencies that come up too, so it's cool because I really like because you can put it together like a puzzle piece and then, confirm. It's very confirming for a lot of women too, which makes them feel, like they're not nuts. So I think that's a big piece as well.
Yeah, I think the feeling not nuts, that seems to be a really recurring theme that I do see in sort of the functional wellness space, even like some of the messaging that I see, which is, did your doctor tell you that your labs were perfectly normal, but you still feel like absolute hot garbage? Let's talk about it. And it's crazy to me that that is such a compelling soundbite, but so many people, women, men, all of women, people have that experience of feeling terrible, but having no clear reason as to why. It's got to be very frustrating, very disempowering.
And I will share, I haven't shared this too much in the public, but I had a pretty rough past year where I had a lot of symptoms of like some numbness, and I actually felt like my whole body was wrapped in saran wrap. It was very strange. I go back again to my kind of crutches stress. I had two really cute 6 week stress where I'd wake up and fight or flight, and just it was quite intense. And then as I processed that, I started to see these other patterns of stress, the rushing woman, all those things that Libby Weaver talks about, and I've been, unwinding those. But what was I going to say?
Well, you had your saran wrap experience.
Oh yeah, yeah. But what was I saying about this? Oh my gosh, Erin. Stress.
Where do we go? Where do we lead to from this? It was the person who doesn't know what's wrong with them or is kind of being gaslit by the, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I would love to see what my labs look like. I'm in Canada. It's a bit of a disaster, the healthcare system here. So, I did telehealth, and I had lots of different doctors do different blood work. And I had doctors tell me my blood work is pristine, right? So here I am having really severe symptoms, yet all my work looks great. I even had an MRI done, totally fine, So I understand these women who are like, I just don't like, there's something going on, but I'm being dismissed, or it's no one's really seeing it. They don't know what's happening, right? It's quite terrifying. It's a little bit frustrating. It's very frustrating, It's almost where women are like, go against their bodies too, right? Because they're getting this confirmation that everything's fine, but they know it's not, right? So then maybe they feel that their body's betraying them. I certainly did for my rheumatoid arthritis. And then what's happened this past year, I'm happy to say everything's cleared out, which feels really amazing. But it's that, that betrayal too, that a lot of women feel like from their bodies, especially if you're putting on weight and they're doing everything the same way.
Yeah, that word betrayal, that's a good one. That's a good way of describing it. And I feel too, just this is just sort of a flip side to what you were saying. Like I've been having a very simple menopause. I gotta be honest with you. It's been pretty breezy so far. And I don't have any chronic illnesses, and I'm symptomatically pretty good. And I don't say that to brag, but it's just true. When I go get my blood work done, it's pristine. And I think, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. I feel great. Good to know. But what if there's something, you know what I mean? Like the pristine blood work almost doesn't tell you anything. I guess pristine blood work plus, zero symptomology would be, okay, we're probably fine. But there's just a little bit of, I don't ultimately like the level of distrust that people now have in the healthcare industry. Like, I think that's actually a kind of a problem. It is very prevalent, but I don't like it ultimately. I know, I know. What do I mean by that? I, there's a part of me that wants people to trust their doctors. Like, I wish they could. And I don't want this to become like an anti-traditional medicine rant. I'm just not into that. But there's a part of me that wishes we didn't have to have this difficult push-pull so that it could feel easier to take care of a body, I guess. I wish it could feel easier to take care of a body, to know what's wrong with you, ultimately.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful, right?
Okay, yeah. I guess that's what you're doing. I mean, I think that's where the functional lab testing comes in, is we get a different perspective on what's going on with the body, and then you can implement some lifestyle changes to resolve symptoms.
Yeah, and you can do it without testing too. I just know, like, I've never been the biggest tester, but I just know a lot of women. It helps them to see it on paper. Another thing I use is a continuous glucose monitor with women, because you're getting that real-time feedback of either what's, stress, how that affects your body, certain foods that you're eating, if you compare certain foods with like protein or fat, like it gives you a lot of input and data, which is really helpful. But again, you could do so much without testing too.
Yes. Yeah, true. Good point. Okay, so just in terms of your work, so you have your private practice, but you're also a coach for Dr. Mindy Pelz. I'd just be curious, like, what do you do with Dr. Pelz's community? How do you work there?
Yeah, oh, it's really fun. It's great. I'm part of a health coaching team. So I know you had Paige Edmonds on your podcast. She's the lead health coach for Dr. Mindy. So there's a few more health coaches that have joined us, which is really exciting. But Paige, Christine, and I, we do a lot of the teaching within Dr. Mindy's Reset Academy. So we will present topics, we facilitate the resets, we are in the community answering questions and conversing with people all the time. We do the one-on-one consultations. So she offers like touch testing, gut testing, general health consultations. So we do that as well. So it's really fun because there's a lot of different hats we get to wear. I love connecting one-on-one with people. I love, teaching. I love being in a bigger community as well. So it kind of fits all of that, which is really nice. And it's never boring. There's always something new to learn and to teach and explore, which is really great as well. And again, that I love the community of women. I think coming together with as women in a community is so powerful, and I always feel great, after connecting with women. So that's another really important piece, I think, for me to be part of that.
I mean, and Dr. Mindy is so, I find her perspective on women's health so interesting. She's just so for women. She's for women, like the experience of being a woman. I heard her on Rich Roll's podcast, and there was this bit at the end, like this rally cry bit at the end. I have to listen to it again because I was out for a walk. It was a great interview, and then the last 2 minutes of the episode, she just blew my mind with just the way she talked about us women. And so she's got an amazing community there. It must be so cool to be part of such a big community driven by such a powerhouse woman, honestly.
It's amazing. And yeah, I followed Dr. Mindy for like a year, like a decade. She's one of the first women who had started to talk about fasting with the hormones, and I learned a lot from her. And it's just amazing to see her continue, to support women and to fight for us and get that message out about women's health. And now she's got the new book, Age Like a Girl, coming out, and that's looking at the menopausal journey in a positive light, which you don't hear about out there anymore. It's always the symptoms and the negativity and all of that, but I haven't read the book yet, but she has a book coming out that's the journey and where you're going with menopause, and I think that's amazing. Yeah, she is incredible. She really is a mentor to me, and she's really shifted the conversation for women, around their health and taking personal responsibility and being able to make these changes. And the fasting results that we see within the community are incredible too. Like it's really amazing.
One of my clients is doing it right now. She's doing I don't do a lot of fasting in my protocol, so she's combining Dr. Mindy's fasting protocol with mine, and we're going to see how it works. But I obviously read her book. I love it. I read Fast Like a Girl. I loved it. I think this is amazing. I'm so excited about her new book because honestly, the menopause transition really needs some kind of like PR help, rebrand. I don't know, something. It cannot be all doom and gloom. There has to be a light side to it. Or embracing it even, right? The recognition of, what it means to age and what it means to come out of your reproductive era into your post-reproductive era, and who are you now? And, just maybe not letting go of that reproductive version of ourselves, but stepping into to kind of our next level, our next phase. And I don't know, I'm obsessed. I cannot wait to hear her perspective on this. I think it's going to be such an important rally cry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And it is a time like there's hormonal shifts happening, but as we talked about, there's lifestyle shifts happening with people too. And then there seems to be more of a space opening up, right? When we start getting into our 50s, 60s. And it's really like a great time to reflect and just like go back to, as you say, go back to home to your body, go back home to yourself. Because we still have decades more to go here. So, like, it's really about stepping into your power. That's the crone, right? The crone means crown, and that's that time in life. And again, we don't. celebrate that. So I'm hoping that she's going to bring this more to the forefront of, our culture and our society. Because in other cultures, they do celebrate that, and that's where I was mentioning before. I know in Japan, like the elders, they're revered, their wisdom, all of that. But here we don't do that. So I think we need to bring that back into our society to learn from our elders and, hold them up on pedestals. Like they've lived life. They have a lot to teach us, and we just don't do that.
Okay, you just said something that sparked a memory of a thing I read or heard. So again, this is going back to information overload. There's some little nodule in my brain that perked up when you said Crohn, because I remember, maybe you can direct me here to whatever extent you can. But there was something to the extent of like there's these four, is it four phases of life or something? I don't know if I've made that up, but we get the Crohn is kind of the elder, is it the ultimate one? Is the
Yeah, so it's like I know there's four. So there's the maiden, like it goes with the reproductive phases. So it's kind of like coming into, in the puberty, and then it's the reproductive years, and then the crone. I think it's three or four. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm not so versed on this stuff, but I love it.
I do too. And there's a book or something that I meant to, I'm going to track it down because I'm obsessed with this idea. I remember hearing about it a lot, years and years ago before I was in this era of my life and thinking, oh, that's kind of interesting. But now I literally need to know. I'm just hungry to know what is special about being in the Crone era. Because to your point, it's not as celebrated in our culture as it is in other cultures. Um, I want to celebrate it. I quite frankly do. I'm ready. I'm ready to celebrate it. Let's go. Why not?
Yeah. And I think, this is like I believe mind, body, spirit, and this is more the spiritual piece, you know? So connecting with like what we're stepping into as women as we get older, how we can be leaders in our community and all of that. I think that's another piece that we're not really talking about as much anymore.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so you've got your private practice and you work with Dr. Mindy. Just because a lot of health coaches have this is like a very logistical into the weeds sort of like I guess business or life question, but um I think a lot of health coaches think they're going to build something of their own and it's going to be this massive thing. But then there are more and more coaches like you and myself as well who are combining private practice with something else. So I'm on the faculty of a health coaching school and I have a private practice and you work with Dr. Mindy and you have a private practice. Do you find that do you like that balance and the contrast of having your own thing and being involved in somebody else's thing? How do you feel about that?
I love it personally. Yeah, I love to be part of a team. I come from a very strong teaching background and actually worked um, in a school with children with special education, special needs, and I had like a staff team of around five. So I love to work with the teams. So that really fulfills that with Dr. Mindy's role. But I also have my own ideas, my own thoughts, and I like to implement those as I can, with my private practice as well. So it's a really great balance, I find. Yeah, it's really fulfills everything that I need, for sure.
I agree. Yeah, and I think I just wanted to bring the conversation to that because it's interesting over the last 10 years that I've been on the faculty of this health coaching school and we train and certify health coaches and then send them off into the world. And 10 years ago, we sent them off into the world to um, private practice, entrepreneurship, ultimately. Now we have a whole employment track. Like you can get this credential and go get a job. There are so many jobs for health coaches, but I like the idea of cobbling together. So I did think for the audience listening, there is a case to be made about having a little bit of both, and it can feel very rewarding. I find it very, and so does Bree. So we're just here to tell you, you can do it all.
You can. I will say the private practice, the piece that gets me is the marketing. That's that like that whole piece is the difficult piece for me. But well, sometimes on Instagram, it's more like people find me, which is great. Like a group of women put together, like one woman put together a group of women. They asked me to run the group. Like those, like that to me, organic is really amazing. And I'm also wanting to get back into my community more, do more talks, like bring that face to face in person piece back. I feel like people need that a lot. I need it too.
Oh yeah. I think that's going to be a growing opportunity is live events. I'm actually one of the things I'm doing for marketing, not so much in my local area, but I'm going to just be hosting a ton of free online workshops, free for with no sales pitch at the end. Just like let's all come together and have a little gab session about this topic or that topic. Um, I think the benefit to that from a marketing perspective is we get to zero in and talk about a topic. We're surrounded by community. We get to tune out some of the noise. People I think are craving community, um, and it's easy to do as well. So I think also it feels rewarding for the practitioner because we get to talk about something we're very passionate about. It's just basically win-win. I love that you brought up that marketing is your struggle because it's everybody's struggle. Everybody.
Well, it's a different skill set, you know. I'm a great coach. I can do that really well, but then I think it's a different skill set. So,
It is. I think what we could do though is completely simplify it down to this idea of simply adding value. Where can I add value? So for me, I'm going to just host some free workshops. You're going to, you know, you get some of these referrals from women's groups or in your community or just by just talking about what you love to talk about. It doesn't have to be a big marketing pitch call to action every time. Just add the value. That's what health coaches love to do. We love to add value to people's lives. So I think that's like a reframe for marketing that we can maybe go with.
yeah, I love that too. Just offering free events to come together, and I think that's amazing. Yeah, and like you said, people need that. They're craving that. So maybe I'll do that as well. That's what I'm going to do in person because I really want to have that face to face. I miss that so much.
I know. I'm all about that too. Okay, so just to kind of to bring us around to the close of the conversation, I'd love to just hear from you. What's one of your favorite things about what you do? What really lights you up about your work?
I love when women feel more confident. I feel like it's like the best, right? Like it's amazing. So whichever, like, and you see it come, you kind of ebb and flow as you're working with them, but ultimately the confidence grows. And I think that's just incredible. If you can just help someone feel more confident in their body, in themselves, and just how they go about life, it's really rewarding for me.
Amazing. That's a really wonderful answer. All right. Well, Bree, take us through all the places where folks can follow up with you, learn more about you, everywhere we can find you.
Sure. So Instagram is at Bree Rudner. My website has all my offerings. You can contact me there. It's breerudner.com. I'm also on Facebook, but let's just stick with Instagram because it's my married name. Like it's a different name on Facebook. So yeah. Yeah.
Plus, we just all tolerate Facebook. Really.
I know. It just kind of is attached to Instagram, so it just goes on there. So it's easy. Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, Bree, thank you so much for, there's a million more things we could talk about. I love, again, chatting with folks in the industry, in the trenches, working with clients. And I've appreciated the time we've spent together, just kind of diving into how you work with folks. It's wonderful to hear. You're doing so well.
Well, thank you. It's been great chatting with you. I love to talk as well with like-minded people and just spread the message and just share what we're doing. Thanks, Erin. Bye.